Good evening and welcome to the May 25th, 2017 Monomoy Regional School District School Committee meeting. It is 6:38 and I call the meeting to order. This is one of the only times I get to actually call a meeting to order as the superintendent, because after we have town meetings each year, the regional school district's school committee goes through a reorganization process. But before we go through that, I would like to first acknowledge that we had 4 school committee members that were elected to 3-year terms. In Chatham, we had Nancy Scott and Jackie Long elected to 3-year terms in Chatham. And in Harwich, we had Sharon Stout, and then we also have Steve Craffey join us. So congratulations, Steve, for joining us, and we can't wait to put you on many subcommittees.
The list is blank, just
so, as the first order of business for reorganization, I would like to open the floor to nominations for chair. Mr. Ball.
I nominate Nancy Scott to be chair of the 2017-2018 school year.
I would second that.
Do we have other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I will have a vote for the chair. All in favor? Aye. Against?
Aye.
So that's...
I'm voting.
for or against Donna.
I'm for.
Voted. Oh.
Okay.
I'm for.
And against 2, so 6-4-2.
Sorry.
No problem, it's okay. And there ends, I think, my task.
Thank you very much, I think. So then we now need to move on to the nominations for vice chair. Okay, entertain Terry?
I would nominate Donna Richardson from the town of Harwich to be.
Yes, and we do need to have since I'm Chatham, we do need to have a Harwich representative as the vice chair. So I have nomination for Donna.
Second.
And a second. Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous as well. Congratulations to you, I think. Right? All right, so the next order of business is the approval of the May 11th minutes. Those are emailed to you last week. Anybody like to make a motion to approve said minutes from May 11th?
So moved.
Thank you.
I would second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I believe that's unanimous. Thank you. Next up is public comment. Is there anyone here for the public to speak? No, seeing no one. We will move on to our student representatives report,
Which we have done this evening.
which we have done this evening. Or is Mr. Hind, you're going to pretend to be a student today? Excellent.
I will take the hit on this one. Sam Hine, principal of Harwich Elementary School. I must have had a senior moment because the last student council meeting, I reminded them that we are due every other month, alternating with Chatham. So June 8th, please mark your calendars, and we'll be representing the school. And I tried the last minute to see if they could change their schedules for today, and prior commitments could not. So I apologize. I'd be happy to share the news, but it's much better coming from the kids, if you don't mind.
I would agree. It's much better coming from them.
Thank you.
We appreciate yours, though. And it looks like we also don't have any middle school representatives here tonight either. Yes.
They're doing their international fair.
Oh, yes, they are. I think that's over by now, so you can't run over there and grab any last-minute foods, but some good food presented there. All right, so we move along, moving right along. I believe this is the fastest meeting ever. Mr. Carpenter, any recognitions?
We have some recognitions on donations received by the school district. I would like to thank the Art of Charity for donation of $122 in additional grants to the International Pen Pals Club to cover shipping costs of school supplies to a Ugandan school, and to the Art of Charity for $500 for the Monomoy Jiu-Jitsu Club to cover costs of competitions in Boston and New York. And finally, for the Friends of Pleasant Bay, $500 for bus transportation to the Human Rights and Environmental Conference at Cape Cod Academy.
Excellent. Thank you very much, which we now move into our reports and discussions for the Chatham Elementary Handbook. We have Dr. Millen.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robin Millen, principal at Chatham Elementary School. Inside your package, you have the updated student-parent handbook for Chatham Elementary School, and you also received a memo from me regarding changes on that handbook. I hope the page numbers all line up still. It's been a formatting challenge, so I won't go through all the itemized changes. However, there were a couple that I do want to add that weren't in your original packet, and just because in the last week we've already had some changes. Basically, most of the changes are just updates on names and times, and a lot of time changes because of the time change in the school. But on page 3, I did add Steve Coffey's name to the list of school committee members, and I will also add the name of the chairs and the co-chairs on that, now that we know who they are. On page 4 and 5, at the time that I did publish the draft, I didn't have one of the names of the new teachers that we have coming, but we do now have a signed contract, so I added her name to page 4 and 5. On page 16, this isn't in your memo, so on page 16 there is a change. We have a change, our proposal, is that right, Katie, to the lunch prices change that you'll be hearing about in the next couple of weeks. So we took out the old price, the shares price of the lunches and the breakfasts, and just put to be determined by the school committee there for now, but when you do determine those prices, we will change that for you. On page 23, this is also not in your memo, but it says the immunizations that the children need to have before entering kindergarten. There is what I call an opt-out and exclusion to immunizations that the state does put out, and so I put a hot link there just so that families would know that we have those exclusions available if they do qualify for those. So that is not in your memo. And then on page 33, I think this is one of the biggest changes that we did this year outside of just kind of those name changes and time changes. But on page 23, we actually removed most of the policies out of our handbook. It was a recommendation from Melissa McGuire because you change policies all the time, mandates change all the time, regs change all the time, regulations change at the state level. So what we did was put a hot link into most of those policies, and I think most of the principals will do the same. So it gives a little blurb about what the policy is, but it then will link to our website, our new website. We'll update to the new website address when that becomes available, so that the parents have the most up-to-date regs, policies, mandates, and all of those things. So that's basically the changes.
I think it might be important to note that this is not a hard copy provided to parents. It's a email link, and then it's on the website.
Right. So parents can get a hard copy if they would like, but we now just do everything digitally. And so we have an opt-out of signature page, but everything else, if we don't hear from families, we know that they've agreed to what's in the handbook.
Any questions?
Sure. You said you had a new employee. Who is that?
So the person that we do have a signed contract for is Taryn Gaffney. She is coming out of Elon University. She has a dual certification in both special education and regular education. So she is actually coming up on Tuesday to spend some time in the building and do some things, and we're very excited to have her. We have one other employee that we have had a verbal from, but we don't have a signed contract from, so when we do have that, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Very good, thank you. And you are also going to be presenting the school improvement plan for Chatham Elementary School.
Okay, so the committee did, I believe, receive a links to this PowerPoint last week. And also some of the evidence that we collated over the year from the school council. I gave you the hot links to the files that were given, so I don't have a choice. I won't go through all of that with you tonight. Nancy's aiming for a really early night. So, but I do want to say that everything that I'm going to say today, and everything that you received over the digital internet, is kind of like a 2D version of all the improvements and all the things happening in a school in a day, in a week, in a year. So it's kind of an organism. It's growing and breathing and doing all the things schools are. So I just want to invite you any day to come on by. Steve too, because he's new, and just kind of see and feel and come into the building and see what's going on so that you can get a real good feel of what's happening at Chatham Elementary School. But I will give you this version, but I wanted you to hear kind of more of a real life kind of situation. Everything from the last 2 days, we had the running club running the hallways, we had a shower for one of our teachers, the fourth grade came back from the National Seashore, they were soaking wet, going through a coordinated program. So it's just a good thing for you to know that this is paper and pencil, and a lot of data will be shared, but it is breathing, so I wanted to invite you in. So the first thing, I just kind of want to remind the committee that this all came from our school council. Our school council was invited here tonight. I did remind them about 4 o'clock. But they sent me as the representative. But there are a number of people that I do want to just say thank you to. We have Ann Barnard is a 2nd grade teacher. Stephanie Goley is one of our parents. Megan Lampert is our EL teacher. Myself, Diane Nash is a parent. Kim Robbins, parent. Megan Story is a parent. Margaret Durko is also a 2nd grade teacher, and then I think it's a little unique, but in our student council at the elementary level, we also do incorporate one of our 2 student council members. You've met them, Leah and Ashley. So whenever there's issues or things that we want to talk to the children about, they kind of get the temperature check and they feed back to us. So I wanted to give them all credits. We do have our school council meetings. Anybody is welcome to join us. They're the first Thursday of every month. This year they're at 8 a.m., so we have one more next month at 8 a.m. Next year they'll be after school because we decided 6:30 was a little too early. So, and some of this is just a review. When I presented this plan to you last year, I told you that this was a smarter plan. It is specific, it's measurable, it's actionable, it's realistic, it's timely. We do also want to remind you that it's also not just smart, it's smarter. We need to evaluate these plans and we need to revise them. So as I go through today, some of the deadlines and some of the objectives we made, some of them we did not. So we're trying to figure out, did we just miss the mark, or did we not need the goal, did we not need the objective? So the school council has been really good about keeping us on task with those things, and I'll explain that in a minute. This plan is research-based, and when you see the full plan, you have the research if you want to look at it. It was built for and by our community. This is nothing, there's no I in this plan, it's all about we. And it is messy. This year has been a lot of trial and error. You'll see some of the data is still looking like we need some work to do. We know that. But it is full of opportunities, and so we're going to share some of those things. For evidence, we're always talking evidence, but if you've been watching the school council websites, I'm sure you do that on your spare time, but every month that we meet, there's somebody on the school council charged for each goal and each objective. So we sit down, they know the deadlines if they're coming up, they say, where are you, what are you doing, what are we doing, what's going on, have you collected this, have you done this, and those things. So you can go on the website, see more of the evidence, see more of the dialogue that's happened through the year. It's been wonderful to have that support. It's better than one person kind of going, oh, did we hit that one, did we do that? So it's been great, and I really thank this council for doing that for us. The school council website, also April 2017, we went over all of our data. So if you look at that, that's that spreadsheet I think you received too, but you can go on there and it's a full spreadsheet with all the evidence that's in all those packets. That evidence is just a slice of evidence. We didn't pull every document that we could have pulled, and you can see videos and things like that. But there are enough scanned documents in there so you can kind of get a general feel of all the work that has been done by both the students, the staff, the community, and the council. And then I will share some school-wide and student improvement data, which I shared when we did the plan, and now I have some up-to-date data. So. Also a reminder that our school council was very careful when they wrote this plan to make sure that it fed into, and we're missing a circle, but the Monomoy school, the regional school district. strategic plan. So everything was driving through that vision, that mission, and those goals and objectives. So the interior circles are our focus circles. So instruction, curriculum, communication, and wellness is the school-wide improvement focus goals, and the outside is the regional district goal. Okay, so this is our first goal. It was instruction. So our goal was to provide students with a research-based instruction as an effective means of raising student achievement. It talked about the objectives, and if you read through those objectives, I felt very validated when the state came in, because differentiated instruction was something they talked to us a lot about in our review, our comp review. We knew that. It was already in our plan. So, the school council was kind of feeling like their feathers should be up a little bit on that. So it was nice. We really did a lot of work on looking at our data, and we knew where we had our relative weaknesses and where we had our strengths. So DI is in there. I'm going to talk a little bit about our alignment with our curriculum maps and our frameworks, the providing the academic support I will talk about as well, and then the continued collaboration with both our regional district and also within our staff itself. Some of the highlights for this instruction is we have still been working with Nancy Boyles, who is a reading specialist out of Connecticut, on professional development. This has been a 2-year embedded professional development with our teachers on closer reading strategies. So when you see the data, you will see that we are getting a return on that. Yes, we still have work to do, but we are getting a return on some of these embedded PDs that we are doing with instruction. We also, obviously, the math and focus professional development was a huge highlight in our year this year. The math I walked into classroom the other day and a child said, "The math is stretching my brain." I have to put my thinking cap on. They really are thinking and dialoguing about math in ways that you would be impressed about. Even first grade, kindergarten, second grade, I again invite you in and just listen to these kids talk about number bonds and decomposing and composing numbers and working with manipulatives, and it's an amazing thing. So this has really been a real focus this year. It's taking a lot of time, but the teachers have had a lot of instruction, some heartfelt discussions about how well it's going and things like that. But, and in the data, you'll see a little bit of an implementation dip as far as our scores go. But I think that what we're getting out of our children is a lot deeper understanding of math itself. One thing I do want to say about the math and focus, we've also been sending our teachers to Yipan Har, who is a math specialist. There's a connection with Principal Wilson. We had him send us some staff in August, and then 4 of our staff at CES also went this spring up in somewhere north near Boston, Marlboro, I believe, or somewhere up there. And they sat with him and they just shared the strategies of how you think math in the real world and how you share with students and how you force them to do the work, where you get off the stage as a teacher and you really are letting the children explore their math and how they're figuring and again, decomposing and working on their kind of attitudes and all of the concepts that we're working on. And that has been extremely powerful to our teachers. So I would like to continue that in our improvement plan. I'd like to continue to send our teachers to have those opportunities with Banhar. It really has been very profitable. So the data here, I can explain kind of laterally so that it makes a little bit of sense. The right column I presented to you a couple of months ago, but I just wanted to have it here because we have some new members. But if you look at the reading data and the math data, and again, this is a very constricted data pool. We don't only teach reading and math in our schools, but it is kind of our temperature check. The second column to the right for the grade level is the winter DRA. Now, last year we used the degree of reading assessment. We're not using that anymore. We're using that measurement of academic performance, MAP we call it. So it's not kind of an apples-to-apples check, but I took the data of the benchmark from the DRA to the benchmark of the MAP, which they go from low average to high average and advanced. And you can see the kindergarten last year, 2016, is now grade 1. This year in the third column. And you can see that we are getting a return in the data. It's looking like we are making improvements. Again, are we where we want to be? Absolutely not. But we are making those linear gains as far as how we're seeing our kids improve in their reading abilities, their comprehension abilities, the way they're breaking down their words of phonemes, phonological awareness, all of those things. So, we're impressed by that. We like that. The map is also less subjective, according to the teachers, in the grading. So we're feeling that it's pretty concrete evidence for us. So we feel like that we are going to move on that. So those are the benchmark numbers. Those are the children that are reading from low, average to advanced in those various grade levels in the winter. Now we're just about to unroll the next map data. We'll do the map in June. And we're hoping to, again, see another return in the numbers. What you have to the far right in reading is we talked about it, the projected measured growth. When Principal Wilson came, he had a very good explanation of that. You want those numbers to be anywhere above 40%. For us, because our grade levels are not measuring up as far as what we would expect them to do, we want to be higher. We want to be up towards the 60% mark, because we want our kids to close those gaps. So if you look at those numbers, in the fall, we were around 22, 45, 65, 57, 69, and we are starting to move those numbers up. So in the winter, we were 57 or 40, 57, 65, 59, and 69, which means our kids are meeting the projected growth for the end of the year in a faster pace, and so we're hoping to close those gaps. Again, this is very data-driven, but what we're seeing also because of that is lower numbers of kids that we're having to give interventions to. So Tier 2 interventions and Tier 3 interventions, which are regular education interventions, we're seeing a lower decreased number in those reading interventions, kids needing that kind of support, and that's good data for us. As far as math goes, it runs the same way. Unfortunately, some of the grade levels, we don't have comparative data because kindergartners were in preschool, and grade 1 last year didn't have a comparative math data. But if you go again to that middle data, you'll see the 55, 75, 68, 69, 69. Those are the children that are at benchmark at that time of the year. And then if you move over, you're looking for that far right number to be close to 40. Okay, so you see we have a little bit of an implementation dip, which is typical of a program. When you open up a new program, you sometimes see that. We're going to watch that very closely, though, because we did see a dip in some of those levels. So before I go on to curriculum, I just want to talk about the next steps. I did mention the differentiated instruction. So in the school-wide improvement plan, if you have that full plan, you'll see 2018 was very focused on differentiated instruction. What we're going to provide for our teachers was a lot of professional development, a lot of help, a lot of support. Our book clubs, our teachers at Chatham Elementary School always engage in a book club over the year. And so we're looking at the DI, the differentiated instruction booklet by Tomlinson, who's a researcher in differentiated instruction, to do next year. So, and again, it matches well up to the comp review, it matches up to the strategic plan, and we already knew it. We had it written in paper before the Massachusetts State came in anyways, so it was very exciting. So curriculum. So curriculum is another area where we have kind of been continuing on providing the materials and the programs for the knowledge and the perspectives and skills necessary for living in a complex and diverse world. This one is a little more broad as far as what it looks like for us, because a lot of our curriculum is district-wide. But we really drill down to making sure that we have materials, text, connections that represent the diversity that we see in our school and the multiple perspectives that are out there. We wanted to make sure that we focused on the foreign language instruction. We think it's very important, not only just for that language instruction, but also for the cultural awareness that it brings. And then those connections to the outside experts and the resources relating to the local and global resources. And I just wanted to add to that last one there. We added some connections. I spoke last year about some of the connections we had with the National Seashore and whatnot. This year, we added the Aquaculture Research Center in Dennis. They're coordinating with our third grade teams to work on, they wanted to do 25 lessons, the superintendent, 25 lessons on aquaculture. They've lowered it to about 15 that they will run with the third grade next year. So they're working on that as a collaborative effort. Our kids will go to Dennis into the research center and they'll do the hands-on experimentation with them and come back and forth and learn about that. We also added, and the fourth grade just came back from this, is the No Boundaries connection, which is a connection with a high school actually out in Western Mass, who actually come to our school and teach our children science standards. And then they are coordinated with a national ranger, national seashore rangers up in, what is that? Is that Truro or Fleet? And they went there today, and it was National Every Kid in a Park Day. So they went up there, and one of the children came back and said, "We learned about the toe, and we had to play Simon Says," and they said, "Simon Says, where's the low water mark?" And they ran to the low water mark, and then they said, "Where's the water mark going to be in 2030?" And they ran all the way back, because they learned about how the water levels were rising. And I said, "What does that mean for Cape Cod?" They said, "I don't know, but I'm going to think about that a little bit more." So they really, it's been a nice, really interconnected connection, and they're learning from other students. They're learning from high school students under the guidance of the park rangers and our teachers, but it's been a wonderful connection. One of the best connections I'll talk about a little later that we also did this year was a connection with Ted Dencher-Smith and through our Most Likely to Succeed screening. And then the Look for the Good project, which was part of our social and emotional learning, was a great opportunity that we did in December, and we'll continue the relationship with them. We also had a cultural arts subcommittee that has started, and they also connected us to the African Drum and Dance Corps this year. They came in for a presentation, and then we also did a club with them after school over the last 4 weeks, which was a wonderful connection. Len Cabral came in, storyteller. We also had the community bring in the Read with Malcolm event, and Malcolm Mitchell, and we're still getting tweets from Malcolm all the time. Kids are quite happy about that. And then the summer reading connection that we have with Eldridge Public Library, we're going to continue that this year. Tammy DiPasquale and her staff have been wonderful, and we're going to do One World, One Reads. So it's going to be a nice connection with them. The other thing that's happened in the curriculum area this year is this highlight to this library learn column. And if you have a chance, inside your evidence packets is an article called Leading Learning, and it's actually out of Canada, but they have a really nice blueprint as to how to move your school into this kind of philosophy. So we've been loosely following that. It talks about how you bring the community together for that, how you bring staff together, how you build the PD, how you bring your students into that, and how you create your spaces. The other thing that's been happening this year is this is a lot of learning for this, because this is a big shift. So our computer teacher, Elaine Griffith, has been taking courses, and her courses have all been focused on what does a learning library commons look like, feel like, what does it mean for student achievement, and what does it mean for learning in your school. And what she designed here is part of her, she sent this to me, so I hope she doesn't mind, but it's her plan as to what the commons will look like once we're done. Now, this is a long-term plan. It's not going to be done in 1 or 2 years, but she's moved it around. You can see there's walls that have been taken down if you know our library. There's areas that have been reconfigured. There's, it's a budget issue. There's furniture that has to be built, texts that have to do, but it's just so you know our next step for this area is in the budget. I did make sure that we were taking the first step to updating our text print library. We have an enormous amount of books that need to be updated. The text collection, the print collection really needs an update. We have a community partnership with Eldridge Public Library. They're going to come in and read our library for free. Thank you very much. And they're going to help us with that, how we upgrade those kind of print collections. So I wanted to show you that that is happening. So the reorganization and plans are in the budget. For the year after, our budget will be our technology infrastructure and updates on those kind of texts. So we have a 24/7 library and access to text and print and resources for kids the following year. And the third year, we're hoping that we can get into the construction and the movement of the actual space. So that's that. For communication, again, this is one of those areas where it's very school-specific in some ways, but broad in others, making sure that we have the frequent modes of communication to our families. I want to thank Principal Burkhead. He put us in touch with SOAR, which is how I'm producing the scoop. For those of you that know it, I've gotten rave reviews on the scoop this year. You can see from the scoop how many people actually read it, how long they spend on it, how many times they come to it, and where in the world they are when they're on it. So we average about 300 hits on our weekly newsletter. On the scoop, they average between 5 and 7 minutes on it each time they hit. And then we also have almost every Friday I send it out. It immediately gets binged to Bulgaria. We have some families from Bulgaria, and somebody must send it on, or some grandparent has hooked on to the Twitter account or something. And so it's pretty amazing to see where people are reading our scoop all over the world. So it's a wonderful thing. I also, that's the homeschool, school-to-home communications, updating the information safety protocols and crisis planning, recruiting the organized community help and support. I just want to put a short shout out to Sergeant Massey, firefighter Tavano, and also Captain DePasquale from the fire department. They organize every year with me the safety protocol and the parent university and all of that stuff, and they've done a nice job. They are so understanding and great support, so I just want to make sure I shout them out here. Ooh, sorry, guys. Keep hitting that as I switch. One of the best things that I think we've done this year, though, is the parent universities, and we have had one every month all year. 10 in total. We have one coming up in the next week, and then we have one final one in the summer, reading and learning with Eldridge Public Library. These events that we've had have been very collaborative in nature. Some of them have been with Harwich Elementary, some of them have been with the library, some of them were with the fire department and the police department. We did the Orpheum Theater, the Most Likely to Succeed event. We've had everything from one person there to 25, 30 people there. The district attorney came for anti-bullying and a cyberbullying event, which we had about 20 people at. It's just been a really nice way for the community to hear and see all the things that we do and also get resources from us. We've held them at various locations. There seems to be some trouble getting people into the school, so I have gone out into the community, or we've gone out into the community to try to solicit more participation in some of these. Next step for these will be to put these on the digital web, get them filmed, get them up on the web, so people who can't make these things live, like here, they can watch us on TV if they want to. And one of the highlights of my year has been the Most Likely to Succeed event. It is an event that talks about how our schools were built in the 1800s, right? And that our kids are not living in that century. It was a wonderful event. I thank Donna Richardson for joining us and the administrative team for joining us that day. One of the best things that came out of that was a 4th grade student of ours was there, and she had the most insightful ideas as to what we should do for our schools and the improvements that we should make for our schools. So it was one of the best events that I had this year. The other thing that was very unplanned, because we were hoping that we could do the VIPs, was that we send out every year a Times Talents and Treasure survey to our parents, and that's basically just asking them, can you tell me some time? Do you have any treasures you want to share? Monetary, anything else? And your talents. And from that, we actually got going. I don't know if I would call it a club, but we call it Sharks for Pups. Superintendent Carpenter will have to help me, but pups are baby sharks. So it's a mentor program that kind of just grew. And right now we have 12 mentors assigned to various students. Every time a child is sent a mentor, adult mentor from outside the community, we also ask them to pay it forward so those children become mentors to younger children or children in their grade level. So we have 12 outside mentors coming in. Those 12 students that are benefiting from that are also now mentors to other children. So it's kind of just grown organically. We have a mentor that loves cars. He works with his mentee on cars. We have another mentor that is kind of in the health-related industry, and the girl that she's working with wants to be a nurse in 2nd grade. She already knows. So it's been this really nice kind of thing that I think eventually can be moved into that VIPS program when we're able to do that. But it's happened, and it's been a really nice thing to see. And last is our wellness. Our wellness is obviously to promote the healthy and safe environment as it relates to the overall social, emotional, physical, and academic development of our staff and our students. For our staff, we run a Wellness Wednesday once a month now. It's a program we just started this year. Once we ask our staff not to assign themselves any meetings any Wednesday, but we also once a month bring outside people in to help our staff. Financial wellness, spiritual wellness, mind wellness, body wellness. We took a walk one Wednesday. We learned to knit one Wednesday. We have some financial advisors come in one Wednesday. This Wednesday, the 31st, we have Hope Health coming to teach or talk to us about coping with grief. So we have had lots of different events for our staff through the year, and that again is just kind of grown organically, but it's been a nice opportunity for our staff just to get together and kind of say, okay, we feel good about this, those kind of things. The physical plant, obviously, we're keeping up with it. Katie's been great. We added this year, I meet with our custodial staff once a month. I realized we meet with our faculty once a month. We do all these things with, we put in a paraprofessional PD once a month. And I wasn't really meeting with our auxiliary staff, our custodians and things like that. So it's been nice to sit down with them once a month, say, hey, how's it going? What do you need? Do you need the chairs picked up? Do you need a new vacuum? They're saying we need a new vacuum, those kind of things. It's been wonderful. So we've been doing that with them as well. It also has allowed us the opportunity to kind of plan. We painted the cafeteria this year. I don't know if you've seen it. It looks great. It's gray and blue. It's the Monomoy colors. We also were able to paint a whole hallway this year. So just those little things, just really preparing and making sure that our environment looks and feels good. And so we'll continue to do that. The positive behavior implementation system, we'll talk about in a minute. And then we also have been talking about the bullying prevention training with the DA coordination, and I'll talk about the playground in a second. You've met our leadership roles for our students. You've met Lear and our student council and things like that. I want to give you some quick PBIS data, which is our positive behavior intervention system. Chatham had this system in place, but we rebooted it this year. We really took the time to train the staff, write our lesson plans, do all the things where we're discreetly teaching our children to be sharks, safe, honest, accepting, respectful, kind, and successful students in our school. They have a song that they sing and everything like that. And again, it always has to go back to that data to see where is this working. You don't want to spend that time and do all these things if you don't really need it, or if you need something different or better. So I just want to share a quick amount of data with you for the PBIS data. This is at the end of term 2. And we collect referral data, office referral data, and positive behavior data. So for referrals this year, this was as of January. Okay, so as of January, we had 10 additional incidents, referrals from classrooms to the office, which sounds like it's an upswing, and it is, because I think the classroom teachers are saying, you know what, this is the expected behavior. It's clear, it's written out, the children know it, they've been discreetly taught it, they've been re-taught it, they are expected to behave that way. And when it's not, there's an actual consequence, a flow chart of a office managed or classroom managed behavior. And so when it comes down to it, we have seen 10 more referrals this year than we did last year. However, we had 2 target areas in the school this year. There's a playground, which was a high incident referral level last year, and also the cafeteria, which also was a high incident referral area. From those areas, the playground is down 7 incidents this year versus same time last year, and cafeteria is down 7. Overall, we are down in our incident referrals across the board when you even everything out, even though we were up in a classroom. And you're probably sitting there going, well, what does this mean? If you figure every referral costs a student or a staff 30 minutes of instructional time, we actually have equated out to 460 additional instructional minutes as of this year, where kids are receiving instruction rather than being sent out of the classroom. So 460 minutes is a lot if you think about it. And when you go down with those children and then total amount, you might be like, oh, it's just a couple for each child. But if you know children, there are certain children that are referred frequently. So if you lower that number of referrals to the 20 or 25 children that get referred to the office, it's quite significant of how much more instructional time they've earned in the classroom. And we do think it's a direct benefit from the positive behavior implementation system that we have. So you can see we've been spotting sharks all over the school. Every time the classroom fills their jar, one of the sharks comes to visit them. We have 6 sharks total. They're all named, everything from Chomper to Jaws. And the kids love it. They write, a book comes with them, so they write about the shark's adventure in their class for the week. It gets collected on Friday, and then whatever class goes at our next, another shark goes and visits them, and they have that opportunity. The other thing that we implemented this year was we realized that we had some higher incidents on the bus than we would have liked, so we implemented a system on the bus as well. We invited our bus drivers in. We had breakfast with them. We taught them what the positive behavior implementation system was, what it meant to positively reinforce. We gave them stickers, we gave them coupons, and we have the Silver Plunger Award that the kids receive for our Clean Cubbies. That's Clean Cubbies. For the sharks in the bus, they receive an incentive achievement. So we also added the Clean Cubby Award for making sure our environment was clean every 2 weeks. The last thing I just want to talk about, and I promise this is it, but I have a lot to share, it's been a busy year, is the Playground and Beautification Committee. This is, last time I met with you, I said this is the good, the bad, and the swale. We still have the swale, but we do have the good, the best, and the plan now. So we do have the wiring complete for the irrigation system. Thank you to the district and for all of your support with that. We did meet this morning. We meet every last Thursday of every month, and we have a plan as to getting the town to do the roaded tilling, and this is where you lose me, but the compost and all of those things that have to happen will happen the last week in July. The irrigation will happen the first week in August, and we'll have seeding and hopefully not a very dry summer, and we will have grass by September. That is my plan. We also have structured a fundraising campaign. We have a $1 million goal for our fundraising campaign. We have a year's worth of events that will be happening over this next year to hopefully raise those monies. Inside that Playground and Beautification Committee, we have subcommittees. We have a grant writing committee that will help write grants. We have a corporate sponsorship committee that will help try to source out corporate sponsorship. We have the Monomoy Community Services also working on a fundraising campaign because they use our space as well. And then the community, it is a community build. I know it's a Chatham Elementary School playground, but the community uses this playground all of the time. So Chatham Bars Inn has been involved. They use it over the summer quite frequently. The committee itself is 25 people, businessmen, businesswomen, the town representatives, philanthropic organizations, all of the people have been invited in and have joined us, and it's been a wonderful thing. So it is going to be a big community build. Stay tuned. You'll see our float at the 4th of July parade. We got proof today. So I do, this was a slide I had last year, but I just want to make sure you know we're going to do this. We're going to continue to move forward. We didn't hit all of our goals, but most of them we were on track with. We will do this all together. We're losing some of our members on our school council, but we will find new ones to make sure that we have a strong school council next year as well. The other thing that I just want to acknowledge at this point is we are shifting some of our staff, and some of our staff are retiring, so I just want to make a public acknowledgement. So Julia Matson and Melissa Owen are heading over to Harwich Elementary to be the kindergarten team over at Harwich Elementary, since we're going to 2 and Sam's going to 6. Jackie Cleary is going to Harwich Elementary as a 3rd grade teacher. So both of those staff members have been spent the last 2 years, and Melissa has been there longer, but at Chatham, I just want to thank them for being at Chatham and serving our kids in Chatham. Alexandra Blasey has decided to teach in England for the year, so she is going to England, and we wish her well. We're hoping to coordinate some events with them over there. And then Barbara McGuire at Chatham Elementary is retiring this year, and I just want to thank her for her services. It gets me emotional because she's been in our school 30 years. So it's good. And then she's also 10 years at Weymouth. So 40 years in education. So I invite you to congratulate her for her retirement, and I hope she enjoys it. Okay, that's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions? Karen?
Sounds very ambitious. With different things that are going on over here. The question I had was on bully prevention training and instruction. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Say the question again?
Under wellness, you had bully prevention training and instruction.
Right.
Could
So,
you speak a little more on that?
sure. So Chatham employs a MARC curriculum, so it's the Massachusetts aggression. I think it's a conflict. I don't know the acronyms right now. Thank you. Being new to Massachusetts, I haven't gotten all these big acronyms. So what that means, and I think it's actually in your evidence packet, the classroom teachers, one time per month, which it happens more in situ, but one time per month have a direct lesson that is embedded in that curriculum. So if you go into the packet, you can see the deadline, the dates and things like that of that curriculum, or the program it is. So they teach the program, and then what the children are supposed to do is show evidence of those, whatever the topic is or the goal is at that time. So 4th grade and 2nd grade just got together because some of them are actually integrated by grade levels, and they worked on some partnerships just the other day, and they were working on how to be a peer leader and how you can talk to younger children to do those kind of things. So it's a wonderful program. Outside of that, the other curriculum that we have, or other programs that we have, are just kind of in situ ones. So when we have the bullying intervention and the prevention program that we have for the district and the policy that we have for the district, and then as things come up, we teach discreetly to the children who need them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Richardson?
This is so exciting to hear and for learning to occur. I commend you on developing a school council that is so active and participates. It's
They're
where
amazing.
that's the grassroots and where it's at. And but I could go on all night on all the pluses I found anyway. But I think the bottom line is you know what's happening, and once you know what's happening, then you set goals and move forward. And I think you have a good model for moving forward. And the best thing too is everyone's active.
They're very active.
I'll stop there.
All 283 of them are very active. But it's really the children that drive that.
Right,
you
but
know.
your parents and the school council do
Yes,
too.
you're right.
And it's nice to see it as shared responsibility.
We couldn't do it without them, that is for sure. We can't do this. That's why I say it's like an organism. It lives and breathes well beyond any one person.
Oh, I do have one more thing. I have been following your notes of that on the school council and reading them, and it was good to see with the strategic plan how in red you noted what was happening. So again, that was warranted my response for knowing what's going on, where we're at, and what do we have to do. Enough said.
Thank you.
Ms. Ryder?
I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you've done and the community involvement that is evident in all of this. And I'm not going to echo what Donna has said, but I find this outstanding. So, thank you.
Pass the words along.
Mr. Russell?
Ditto that, Robin, excellent job. The overage and how you presented, I was duly impressed. Just on the Singapore math, you know, we've all made a commitment, say a year ago financially, and it's launched. Kind of similarly with before Broadway goes Broadway with their play, they go to Philly and they go to Chicago and maybe Boston. This is our first year. Before we infect the kids on the Singapore way, the teachers really have to be internalized it so it becomes their way. What would you gauge? Is it a 3-year process before I own this, or a 2-year? I'm just thinking of these terms and mapping, and maybe not me being around here in 2 or 3 years, but to watch this and say, we're seeing that click, because before kids get it, the math teachers do. So that's kind of a statement.
Right,
But
I would agree with that, and I think Carla, Dr. Blanchard can talk about that too, but anytime you change something, you look at the first year being implementation, the second year being like kind of the more instructional, and then the third year being the reflection, where you're really feeling like, okay, I own this type of thing. With all these things that we've done this year, I keep telling the staff especially, and as far as this kind of kudos go, for like the map data and the data analysis and all those things that is happening, they have assimilated that far faster than I would have anticipated any group of staff, and I tell them that all the time, and I mean it. I've gone through these processes in other districts, and it hasn't come as naturally or as quickly in those things. For our math program, I think the program is very good for everybody, you know, because it allows people to think in ways that will make them uncomfortable maybe, because you're not just doing the linear algorithm, and you're not just kind of doing the 2 + 2 = 4. You're having to explain it, you're going to have to draw it, you're going to have to do the pictorial representation of it. You're going to have to do all of those things, and you have to talk about it. So for children who process very quickly and think about things very quickly, they have to stop and kind of go back and rethink, and that can be very uncomfortable because they know the right answer and they got the right answer and they're good, they're done. But what that doesn't allow them to do is persevere and struggle, and that's what I think that child that said, you're stretching my brain, it's really causing that kind of, that it's an uncomfortable struggle, but it's a purposeful struggle. for them. And I think the teachers are not used to watching children struggle. We want all of our children to achieve. We want them all to get A's on tests, and we want them all to get good scores. And there are problems on every assessment in math and focus that are novel problems. The children have not seen them. They relate in some conceptual way to what they've studied, but they have to think beyond. And so that's been hard on teachers. They're like, well, wait, not everybody got 100 on the test, but that's okay, because the kids were having to have that purposeful struggle. So I would think it's going to take a while. I think it has to change that mindset as far as we want everybody to be perfect in that kind of way. We want everybody to achieve, but we also want to make sure that they're learning in ways that they can go beyond what they're learning. So it's going to take a little while.
Mr. Carpenter?
Robin, I just want to thank you and kind of applaud you for the data focus that you had in your school improvement plan. I think if we loop back to what I was presenting last time we met as a committee, talking about where DESE says we as a district need to focus to move things forward, it's to make this a data-focused, data-centered district that's making decisions based on the data. So, I think that part of this presentation is taking the lead and stepping forward that way, so thank you.
I'm not going to read too much, but I could give you more.
Anybody else? Thank
I
you.
like the data.
Okay. Oh, come on, let's sit down. It's in the evidence packet, Laura.
I looked at what you
You
had
had to be a
put.
little pictures involved here.
I looked at what you had sent. You said there's more?
It's in the evidence packets inside those. Did you get a last one? Because I just approved your access. I don't know how.
Yeah, I looked at those. Yeah, that was good.
But I can give you some more.
Okay, great. I like it.
Come on, bud. My staff wants to run me out of town sometimes. Get down.
The superintendent just complimented you on the data, and I also do that, but I also compliment you on your caring about your staff.
Very emotional, I apologize.
No, but I think that that kind of caring is important, especially at an elementary school.
Yes.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So that just means the other administrators have a very tough act to follow after you. Be warned. All right, so we move on to our third quarter financials and auditors reports. Miss Iserniu.
Jim, how do I get full screen? I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's wonderful to come to talk about the financials after a presentation like Robin's, because then, to me, it's really showing how our money is being used and how the funds are spent. And just one point that I want to just remind everybody that with the playground beautification over at Chatham Elementary School, we did, one of the very first things we did was install a well, so that when the irrigation is going, there is a well, we won't be using town water, so that's a good thing. So in your packets, I sent you the financials and felt that maybe I could put a few up on a PowerPoint so that we could be having people at home see where we are. Sorry. For some reason, I can't advance it. I'm sorry. Here we go. I wanted to put together a narrative that went with the financials. I'm trying to, make it as transparent, user-friendly as it can be, so I know numbers are good for some people, the narrative is good for others. So in your packet was the revenues that we had collected thus far, and we're right on target with the areas, but as we talked about at our budget presentations, our expectation with the Chapter 70 money is we'll be getting additional Chapter 70 monies than when the budget was first approved. And as you know, we use excess and deficiency to support the FY18 budget as a result. In the packet, there is a chart that shows how the budget is expended, and to show a reminder to everybody that salaries and wages make up more than $19 million of the $36 million budget. Our overall expenses, that not including health insurance, but those are our operational expenses, is $5 million. Fixed charges, which are our health insurance and property liability, et cetera. And our capital and debt, 2.7, programs with other districts, which are our tuitions. 2.7 makes up the whole $36 million budget. This is where we are, and this is the year-to-date expenditure through the third quarter. So we have an unencumbered, unexpended balance of $263,900, about 0.7% of the budget left unexpended, unencumbered. We're getting to the finish line. We're on target. What we're doing now and spending all of the time now is looking at all of our encumbrances and looking at our utility bills, see if we can reduce any encumbrances for the rest of the year, and just making sure that there aren't any surprises that come up. You don't want any surprises at this point in time. We're really on the home stretch, and I really appreciate the support of the other administrators and the principals in terms of wrapping up their budgets, because right at the 1st of June, all of the school secretaries will be looking to start entering in information for the next fiscal year. So we'll be on to the next soon enough. I did a little bit of a narrative by each cost center to give you an update. I'm going to go back for a second because as you know, when we do our budget, we vote it by cost centers, by the 1,000s, 2,000s, et cetera. In those 1,000s, it's salaries and expenses. And then what we need to have at the end of the year is all of the cost centers end in a positive balance, even if it's 45 cents. So there are three areas in the 1,000s and the 5,000 series, and in the 9,000s are, right now, these cost centers are overextended, but we'll make up for it with budget transfers at, I would think, the next school committee meeting. Some of those, because of the work we're doing with the activity with the encumbrances, may not in fact be in the negative after all is said and done. So I just wanted to point that out. Each one of the cost centers I put a little narrative about, and in the 1,000s that was in the minus. We had some retirements, so when we were paying off a sick leave buyback, et cetera. But we'll have a, we will be okay in the 1,000s. The 2,000s, fine, that we do have some things in the minus in the substitute lines, and we added a ELL teacher at Howard Elementary, and as we know, we committed to the math and focus, and that was charged to the 2,000s, which would show why that was in the negative. All of the cost centers, the 3,000s are at transportation, athletics, some of the athletic programs, we needed to get some new uniforms. I'm working with the athletic director. She's setting out a plan, so we'll have a strategic plan on ordering uniforms, et cetera, nice cycle, so that will be smoothly. Operations and maintenance is tracking as we had anticipated, and in the fixed, in the system generated software, the last payroll in June is we collect the deductions for the July health insurance. It's a July expense, but it overstates the encumbrance, so I had to make an adjustment. So if you see in the 5,000s, it's overexpended, it's all good. Capital improvement acquisitions, the debt and retirement, those are tracking out as we had anticipated, and there were additional charter school tuitions that we'll be making adjustments through a budget transfer going forward. The first page was a summary. This shows just the expenditures by at Howard Elementary School, Chatham Elementary School, the middle school, the high school, the district-wide expenditures. that all wrap up into that first summary report that I provided to you. So overall, the budget is positive. Need to be some budget transfers, and it's a little bit too soon to know exactly what those are, but we will within the next month or so. Next couple of weeks or so. Next month. I don't know if anyone has any questions before I go forward.
Katie, I have one. I probably should know the
Mr.
answer.
Russell.
When youngsters who are under our special ed program, there would either be, for example, a mass hospital or a collaborative. When a youngster ages out, the assigned amount of money that was supporting that youngster, where does that go?
So when we do the budget, we have the Director of Student Services knows and anticipates when a student is going to be aging out. So when we do the budget and you're looking at, so if you know that a student maybe is going to age out mid-year, when we're doing the budget, we set that tuition anticipating that we'll only have a tuition for 5 months.
And follow-up question, not specific, is that last column on the first or second page where you had like 2 million and change for outplacement, I would imagine some of that is for our collaborative on the Cape?
Yes, it's
Would you know how much that roughly would be absent any other tuitions going someplace else? I'd be interested.
I could tell you exactly.
Exactly, it's marvelous.
So, just give me one brief second. So in the detail line item, there's one line item that is tuition to collaboratives. So, the tuition to the collaboratives is $425,000.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, move on to the audit report.
Yes, so our auditing company is Lynch, Malloy, Marini, the CPAs LLP. They conducted the audit and then came in and did a exit interview with us, and we have a contract with them for 1 more year. I asked the auditors, I said, gee, these audit reports are 60-some odd pages. That's really a little much to project up on a screen. So he said, that there's 3 pages that kind of give you a good snapshot on your assets and your liabilities and where you are and how the year was. So I scanned those in. These were all part of the audit packet that you received. So it looked so much larger when I was put my glasses on. So the audit will be up, on the website, and the auditors have also I draw a blank. They said they'd love to come and talk and do a presentation to the district. There are going to be some GASB rule changes in effective FY18, so we felt that in the fall it would be better for them to come to talk to us about how the financial statements are going to be impacted in the future about that. So if we're looking at the year, we had ended up with a general fund balance. The general fund balance, the assigned fund balance is $385,000. The bottom line is that we had a good year. We added $695,000 approximately to our E&D, $760, I'm sorry, overall revenue and financing sources. We had 2 areas that we needed to work on internally. There were some changes in how we need to track our grants, and what we needed to do was make a more formal written practice and policy procedure on grants management, which we've put together, and then we needed to just adjust something with the cash reconciliation, but it was already resolved before the audit was over. So, a non-CPA's version of the audit. And I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Any questions?
So was the narrative helpful with the narrative with the numbers too?
Somewhat.
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
When we're doing all the budgeting for next year, do we look over these things to see, because like the substitute line is one that irritates me every year. There are others, but some of the others, like if you need a special needs aid or something, I understand that those are completely unpredictable. But some of them, especially when they're consistent, I don't get why we don't put in what we really are spending for that. So are we doing a better job on things like, I mean, I have to pick on the substitute.
Right, and that tends to be kind of an area that when you first put the budget number in, then you anticipate or hope that you won't have that level of need the next year. But what we do when we budget, we get the current year that we're in while we're working on the budget, and then we do compare to the actuals from the prior year. And there are some that we just roll the dice on, and substitutes would be one of those areas.
Well, my suggestion is to average what we've had in the last 3 years or something.
Yep, absolutely. I hear you.
Thank you.
Ms. Ryder?
Since Sharon brought it up, we did talk previously about specifically the substitutes and the fact that the budget that we're looking at this year, the budgeted amount was less than what was actually used the prior year, and the trend shows that it's actually rising. So it would be good perhaps to at least budget at the same level as this year, if not a little bit higher, because it has trended up every year. Is that not true?
That is true, and I think that one of the things that we need to do going forward, and I will do, is have 2 separate lines, and one for long-term subs, and then one for just your day-to-day, because what we've had this year is a significant increase in some long-term sub needs, and that can really throw the budget off, because after a sub is in the long-term sub position, they go back to a bachelor's step 1. So we need to do that going forward. We'll have to do that for 19. Because 18, we already had, the budget's all set.
Right. But
Pull out the data. Yes.
Step.
I love the idea of separating those
Yeah.
two, because I personally would expect that year to year our daily needs for subs would be similar to
I agree.
the average. But the long-term subs, if somebody has a health issue or
Right.
something like that, those are less predictable.
Yes.
Babies may be a little bit more predictable, knowing what age groups we have.
Yeah. But I agree with what Karen and Sharon are both saying.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. And our last discussion report is for subcommittee assignments. And in your packets is a list of our current subcommittees. And that's just kind of goes along with the reorganization, that we relook at our subcommittee assignments in case that there's somebody that might want to jump ship on a certain subcommittee and somebody who's dying to get onto another subcommittee. I don't really think we're going to go into a discussion tonight on it. I think we can take it home and kind of ponder over it. I think also for our new member, Mr. Caffrey, if we can kind of have a conversation just to explain what some of them are so that he has a better idea. So just kind of take that and mull over that and possibly send an email out before the next meeting and see if you can maybe bring it back and we can have a conversation at our next meeting. Ms. Ryder?
Just a couple quick things. One is that policy subcommittee is not on the list. That's kind of a big one. I think
Okay, thank you. So if you can add your, on that list that you have in front of you, if you could please add policy subcommittee. Thank you for noticing that.
We previously also had a communications subcommittee. I think we had talked about perhaps whether there was a purpose for that last year. I'm not advocating adding it back on. I don't think it was ever, it ever mattered or had a purpose at all. I'm just mentioning that it wasn't on here. That's all.
Okay.
And the building committee, I would just suggest if we were going to have a line item there going forward, that we call that a liaison, because it's not really a committee. It's just one person that's a rep, like the 3 on the bottom.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you.
And do we still need the Chatham Elementary School grounds fire station one?
Honestly, this is the first that I've looked at it, so I saw it in the packet the same time you did.
Okay.
And that's kind of why I said we'll talk about it at the next meeting, because I haven't had a chance to look at it and think about it. So I think that those are all very valid points, and we can talk about whether or not we need the elementary school grounds. Dr. Millen shaking her head no. We can also talk about the building committee and being a liaison and where that status is. So maybe we'll review this and we can send you a clean list to possibly fill out your requests on and for the next meeting. Mr. DeVaul.
Finance subcommittee isn't on there.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so we need to add finance. I'll add communications, just as a question.
And just a little point of information.
Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
The negotiations subcommittee will be
Doozy.
a big commitment for people next year. So we'll be going into the next round of contract negotiations. So it's
For all units or
for the MREA. So
just unit A and
A,
B, and C? Okay. Mr. Russell?
Just clarification, Madam Chair, the warrant and payroll, is that small group that drive over to the admin and sign?
When we remember, yes.
That's a great committee.
That's one of the best meeting committees ever. Ms. Richardson?
Sign me up. If you're on one of these committees already, can you change to something else?
I would say yes. I think that would be part of the jumping ship.
Boarding.
Currently, Ms. Richardson is getting off of one of her committees. We should all pay special focus as to which one she does not choose.
Well, I really like the Chatham Elementary School grounds. I was on that one. I'll stay on that.
We just deemed that one as unnecessary, so we're going to cross that one off. So you automatically get booted off of that one. So yeah, I think we'll review this list and we'll send you a clean list to ponder over. Anything else that was left off the list that anybody can pay attention or think of? Oh. Thank you. And that ends our reports and discussions, and I believe that also is our subcommittee report on subcommittee assignments. I'm sorry. Does anybody else have any subcommittee reports? I don't think anybody met.
I went to the wellness subcommittee, and I think that's already on here.
It's technically a liaison, but we can squeeze that in.
They're kind of finishing up what
Okay.
we're doing.
Very good. Best report yet?
It was a great meeting, actually.
Very good. Thank you. Any other subcommittees? All right. Superintendent's report.
Well,
I want you to follow Sharon's subcommittee report and be that brief.
Well, after having long meetings the last several times and having to cut short my superintendent's report, it looked like I could actually give one for about 2 hours
No, you may not.
tonight. So,
We can time you 5 minutes. Go.
I have some things that I'd like to just bring up. First, I want to just thank all of the administrators and teachers that have been part of our hiring committees. So we're actually coming to the end almost of our hiring process, and we have had so many gems have come through my office for the final conversation. And I think the one commonality between all of them is they all had options. We have hired some fantastic people who had many options as to where they wanted to be, and the nice thing is they wanted to be here. They saw the culture that we have in our schools and where we're going, and it really speaks to I think just the culture that's happening in the buildings, the warmth that they felt when they came here, and yes, I do look forward to seeing that next generation that comes. I know that Robin spoke about Barbara McGuire, retiring. We also were, Sam and I were just over at the Harwich Elementary School retirement party for Patty Malinowski and Francie Joseph were retiring, and it was just a celebration of them, but we also know that we've got great people coming in on the other side too. Next thing I just want to share with you is just a brief window in what it's like to be the superintendent in a small school district. And in many ways, I'd like to thank you for the opportunities. It's something that you don't get to do in bigger school districts. So little snapshot of the last couple weeks and some of my favorite highlights. It was a couple weeks ago. I was over at Harwich Elementary School, walking the halls with Sam, and Sam and I came across a youngster who was having a bad day hanging out under a water fountain. And so we got down and we were having a little conversation with him, and he went back to the office, and I told him I was going to be coming in to do a presentation on eelgrass in a couple days, and that I'd go seek him out and have a conversation with him. And and it was nice. I mean, when I walked up to him as he was walking in the door for to come to the eelgrass presentation, it meant, you could tell it meant a lot to him that I went up to him and acknowledged him. And then as I was going around with Sam last Friday, returning all of the drawings and writings that kids had done on eelgrass, and I walked into his classroom and again acknowledged him, and he was just, it sort of lit up. So you have that end of the kindergarten spectrum, and then on the other end, I got this nice little note from a parent that there's a youngster that will be walking at graduation, that they were kind of crediting that I had a lot to do with sort of helping him, because he metaphorically was under that water fountain a few years ago, and has had several visits to come in my office. Every report card I've been asking Barbara to look up the grades and see where he is, call mom, what do we need to do? And I think we had a conversation a few months ago where I was saying, if we need, you could be sitting at my dining room table doing these assignments that you're back in while I'm writing on my doctorate, because Lord knows right there I need to go finish that up too. I think that must have inspired him enough to not have to be at my dining room table. But the nice thing is, as superintendent, a couple days ago, there I am signing a diploma for somebody who when he was in 10th grade we were worrying about. So it's nice to kind of see in a smaller district, from the kindergarten all the way up to the other end. In terms of the eelgrass, I had 150 elementary kids went and did little submissions back to me, and it was just so cute to see, particularly as a high school person, the difference in growth between kindergarten and what kindergartners did versus where they get to in fourth grade, and we went and. I made little notes back to each of the students, and then went and took the ones that really had exceptional creativity or exceptional effort, and put them out on the table, and the folks in central office, we were kind of having a discussion over which was the best project for one's age, and ultimately I selected Quinn Muldoon, who's a second grader at Harwich Elementary School, and called his mom to say, of all the submissions, your son's was the best, and I had offered to take the winner out and have a special boating experience with them and a parent and a friend, and the mom was just ecstatic because she was talking about how he had put so much effort and had 4 iterations of it, and it was nice on the other side to kind of validate that kind of effort, that effort gets rewarded. So congratulations to Quinn. And the other nice thing was, as I was going around with Sam returning their submissions to each of the elementary kids, we walked into the kindergarten classroom, and the kindergartners had just returned from the National Seashore. And I felt like I had rock star status because they all had seen eelgrass that day. And they were all sort of excited about this thing that they seen. And apparently the naturalist was pointing it out and asking, does anyone know what this is? And they're like, all very excited that they knew exactly what was going on. So, so those sort of warming things that I think sometimes in a bigger school district, the superintendent doesn't get to have that sort of positive affirmation. So on other things, I want to thank Sarah Wheaton and Rachel Barnes for the high school summer reading. If you, on your way out tonight, you can see all the different pieces of paper up there, just different books, options that the high school students have to read. And there are adults that are reading that book too, including one of them that a book group that I'll be doing on the WIDA expedition. Did I pronounce it right this time, Nancy? All right. So, but it's that neat opportunity to go and sort of have students get fired up, and now having 2 high school students here next year. Just with them, listening to their conversations about which books they want to select. So I applaud them for coming up with a summer reading approach where students want to read. And I can kind of remember back in the day the summer reading where you had to read it and it wasn't necessarily something that you were passionate about. So I applaud them for that. Then just a quick one, you have invitations to graduation. So before we next meet, we have graduation Sunday, June 4th, 2 p.m. on the front lawn. It'll be sunny, rainbows, but under the tent, but it'll be nice no matter what. Also, before we next meet, I want to just acknowledge the efforts that Joy Jordan has been putting in on the website. So Joy today says that we will be sending out we're going live on the new website June 2nd, Friday, June 2nd. In an email inbox near you, there will be a link to the new website. And as we go into the new school year, our sort of first professional development days before the start of the school year, we will be encouraging teachers to populate the last piece of the website, which is their own personal pages, and to link up from the website, with a sort of a photo of them or their favorite quote, and then links to their course websites, or how they have their Google Classroom page or whatever form they use. Also, I think this was mentioned in Robin's presentation on the handbook. At our next school committee meeting, we'll be talking about school lunch prices. So one of the things that we have to do is that we have to actually increase by mandate. Our lunch prices have now slid below where they can be to be fully reimbursable. So we'll have to kind of talk about where our lunch prices are, where the government's saying they need to be set at, and sort of a review of where the lunch prices are in districts around us. That's it.
That
Is it 10 o'clock yet?
Yes, it is. Just don't look at your clock. Any questions for Mr. Carpenter? Ms. Stout?
I just have a comment, and my comment is about the first thing you said, the teachers, the new hires. I happen to have spoken with somebody from another community, and they were upset because their child's favorite teacher is coming here next year and leaving another school. And so, not that I was kind of sorry for them, but it did make me smile that we were getting somebody that was not only a good teacher, but kids' favorite teachers, so.
I think that's happened multiple times over in the hires that we've got coming, so it's nice.
Anybody else? Right. Anybody would like to make a, yes?
Just a reminder that the school committee members also have an invitation for the convocation next week.
Thank you. Anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. And that is unanimous, so we are adjourned at 8:02 PM. Fantastic.